Excellent. And from what I have heard, you've had an amazing day. And a day when, as I can see, you're all pledging to go forward with your ideas, your thoughts, but point of fact, your energy. And so I'm in a room where I know I've got a lot of kindred spirits. There's an awful lot of positive energy. Energy that is really out there to do one thing, to make someone else's life better. And I think that's a really important thing to think about. And to take a few moments and think, yeah, that's why we're all here. Isn't that why we get up every morning? We get up in the morning, and I think it's a privilege to work in health. It's a privilege for me to do what I do. And so when I was thinking about what can I share with you today, and this why do we strive for excellence, I'd like to sort of just put it into a little bit of context on a personal level, and then look at it more broadly. But having said that, I've had an interesting weekend on call at the hospital. It is not infrequent that vulnerable people suffer burn injury. When somebody who is vulnerable, whether it be from a cognitive impairment, physical impairment, whether it's by their choice, or a series of choices, or by bad luck, or by just nobody even knows. Point of fact is, that's another person. That is an individual. That is someone's mum, dad, brother, sister that needs our help. And that's the kind of weekend I've had, in that almost every one of the patients that was admitted this weekend was admitted because they were vulnerable in one way or another. And at least half of them were vulnerable in the cognitive space. That is sobering. You know, we all take for granted that we will, we get up, what day is it? Sometimes we may have to think a couple of minutes to figure it out. But then we know, don't we? You know, and we have an expectation of functionality of our brain that we take for granted. And I know today you've been spending a lot of time trying to understand how to help those when what we take for granted is no longer their privilege. And so as I was thinking about that, I was thinking about a closet neurophysiologist, because the first time I ever did any research was in this space. And it was a very, very long time ago. I was brought up in the north of England, in a coal mining village. I went to medical school, and I had the kind of upbringing where basically you could do what you wanted to do. There was only one prerequisite, and that was, are you prepared to work hard enough to achieve it? No substitute for hard work, lads. Get on and do it. No point in listening to people who say no. Go and find those people who want to actually help you solve the problem. Connect with those with positive energy. Don't waste your time with the negative, with the naysayers. And so that was an environment I arrived in medical school. I was one of 12 women in my year. That was an interesting experience. And I was the only one who had aspirations to be a surgeon. And I figured that very early on that I needed to do things that would make it impossible for people to say no to me. I can nag for Great Britain and Australia combined. I'll come back to that. There's nothing like a bit of nagging and stubbornness. I'm sure my children will attest to that. But I started looking at research. And research, looking at why. There's an awful lot of why out there. I mean, in no small part, the research in Alzheimer's is phenomenal. Interesting, the beta-pleated sheets of amyloid in the brain with Alzheimer's, second most concentrated, you find them in the fibroblasts in skin and scarring. There you go, trivia. Why? Why? You know? Interesting things that we know so much these days. But we know so much of all this information. How can we turn that information into knowledge? And how can we turn that knowledge into practice? And this is how I kind of stumbled into all this, like in 1975. It's like, oh my goodness, now I feel old. And there I was, thinking, well, what is it? What is it that I want to understand? And I found myself in a position where I thought the most fascinating organ at the time, because I've changed, I'm now on skin, but the most fascinating organ at the time for me was the brain. So I spent time in the museum. If you ever go to London and you want to, there's only one museum you can go to, you may think it's weird, but if you go to the Royal College of Surgeons, you can go to the Hunterian Museum, best museum in London, I think. It's got the biggest collection of brains in the world, from worms to elephants. And there I was as a medical student, measuring brains from worms to elephants. And measuring these brains with trying to understand the different aspects of the brain relative to how the animal moved. And as a result of that, I was chosen to go to East Africa and work on the leaky camp doing anthropology, looking at how fossilization, the fossilization of movement, of locomotion, was being mapped out. There was an FBI footprint expert there, looking at footprints that sure as hell didn't look as human to me, but anyway. And there we were, trying to understand the differences in the fossil brain, fossils related to skulls, related to the brains, related to the locomotion. It was fascinating. And I came back really enthused because the brain is such an amazing thing. I did an exam at that time. I had a 30-minute oral exam, and it was all on neuroanatomy. And I was asked whether I felt that there was neuroanatomy changes that could be related to cultural differences. And we're looking at pigment, and the pigment of the skin actually comes from the neural crest coming from the developing brain. And it was a fascinating discussion that set me from that path of the brain into skin and scarring. And skin, in my book, in my paradigm, is an enormous neural receptor. Just because it doesn't look as cool as the eye, or it doesn't smell like the nose, or you don't hear all those beautiful cochlear cells, it's no less a neural receptor. It has multifunctionality. Temperature. It protects us, keeps us waterproof, keeps us bacteria-proof most of the time. Occasionally that gets breached. Vitamin D, innate immunity. Our sensory interface with the world, our psychology when we blush. All these things made me go down this route of exploring skin in all its glory. You know, from the sort of the softness of a baby's bottom to those wrinkles as we get older. And those wrinkles are micro-scarring. And how can I understand that whole natural history and how that relates to the brain? Because one day, maybe, we will think ourselves whole after we're injured. Now you think, well, how do we get to that point? How do we get to the whole concept of can we think ourselves whole? Well, we start by asking the question. I have absolute clarity that every question we ask, if we give it attention and give it the sort of airspace for answer that relates to the complexity of the question, we will add to the body of knowledge in the world. Why are we all here? We are here to understand how we can improve the quality of life of another by changing that information into knowledge. So I can tell you, by our research, that if you are burnt here, the nerve supply, the nerve density, is changed here in the non-injured skin. Why? I can tell you that in an animal experiment, you burn on the side, the spinal ganglia change, the dorsal ganglia change upstream, on the other side and downstream. I know from looking at the transcranial magnetic stimulation of the brain of 13 patients with single upper limb injuries, that when we map their hand on their brain, we can see a change in the threshold of the stimulation, the patterning of their brain, years after the burn injury, even when they've got a full range of movement. I know that in areas where you can hardly see the scar, where we've speciality of the house, we've done our spray on skin cells, and we can't see the scar. 80% of our children, you can't see the scars after we've operated. This is macroscopic. But you can see there's a sensory difference. You can measure a sensory difference. All that means why? Well, again, I'm a sucker, always having your blinkers on, always listening, always understanding that there's information out there that might be a single piece of your jigsaw that will build that jigsaw into something that then becomes tangible. And that's what makes information so interesting. It is like a 50,000 piece jigsaw, all of the same colour sometimes. Because we wanted these pieces of information. And when they start to connect together, they start to make sense. And so we start to give form to that question. And we start to explore that question and try and answer it. And by doing that, we start to pull in other pieces of the jigsaw. And so the day before we had our patients, before we put the ethics in, I should say, for our transcranial magnetic stimulation, I said, well, you're going to have to do that to me, because I can't ask for ethics approval for something I don't know whether it hurts, what it feels like. Having said that, I've just thought for the first time, there are many operations I haven't had myself. Note to self, don't go there. But anyway, I had to say, can you do this to me first? Now, the interesting thing was, the day before, I'd had a tooth out. You know, you go to the dentist and you go like, oh, just, yeah, it's fair. They go, my daughter's a dentist, so I give her lots of resin, and they go, oh, well, you know, we can spend thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, and we can do a root canal, or we take it out. And of course, you do the thousands of hours, thousands of dollars, and then you go, do you want to take it out? Still hurts. And so I'd taken my tooth out. And so I got the tooth out, and they wire. I don't know if any of you have seen how the transcranial magnetic stimulation works, but basically they put a magnet on your head and stimulate the magnetic field so it discharges, and you've got electrodes on your hand, so it makes your hand twitch, because we will map in my hand. And it looked like I was in a gurning competition. For those of you from North England know what gurning is, it's face pulling. Right? So I was in a face pulling competition because they're stimulating my brain. And the brain is so plastic, it was swamped by my face. The whole of my face was just contorting with the magnetic stimulation. And I was like, they were looking at my head turning up the dial. I think, and I'm going like, I've got a problem. Houston, we've got a problem. Maybe it's because I was too bad. And the pain is causing this change, this swap in that side of my brain. And so I put it on the other side and it worked. It mapped my hand normally. Fascinating. Burns is extraordinarily painful. How all these changes we see, because the patterning in the brain has been swamped, such that thinking myself whole, visualizing, trying to understand how I can retain that shape of my surface becomes a realistic possibility, doesn't it? Well, I think so. And so then we start working on the mirror box, which is like a box, and it's got a mirror on the outside. Sometimes we scientists are very simple. So it's the mirror box, and you put your hand in the box, and I'm sure, again, some of the neuro guys here do this, and you can train that yourself with laterality training on the computer before, so when you put your hand in the box, and you move your good hand, your brain thinks the bad hand, the burnt hand is moving. And it's moving normally, and it looks normal. And in our early work, we could see that we could reduce the swelling And there was an indication that it was healing quicker, even though it's just sitting in the mirror box. So the interplay between our nervous system, our brain, and our skin is intimate. Understanding that link is key in understanding how we can drive a scar-free healing. Understanding how we can harness the pain and harness the treatment of that pain to drive to a normal patterning by visualization techniques. So then, it's exciting, we're exploring all these things to try and change the paradigm of healing after the most devastating injury, a burn injury. But hey, about Mr. Jones. We go in and we ask him, do you know where you are? And he doesn't. What about the child who may have cerebral palsy, who may have an optic brain damage that's compromising their cognition from an intellectual perspective? Understanding how people's scar related to their neurology and their neurological capacity has become another interesting area. We know that the kids with spina bifida heal slower, but they scar less in that sensory deficit paradigm. All these things are pieces of our jigsaw. Why do I tell this and labor this story? Because unless you seek information, unless you're receptive to information, you cannot seek knowledge. Because that's novel knowledge is made up of putting those information pieces of the jigsaw together in a novel way, in a new way, in a way that fits the situation, the unique situation in front of you. And by doing that, and that transferring that knowledge into information into knowledge, then we have an opportunity to strive for excellence in healthcare, to change the paradigm, to understand that we stand on the shoulders of the giants who've gone before us, absolutely. Because we do work and live in an extraordinary time, where the science and technology, our environment, our knowledge, our experience, all put together, means we deliver health in a way that, people, if they landed from, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, would go, wow, or would they? I would hazard a guess that most of the time they would go, oh. But some of the time they go, oh, really? And so in that context, what are we going to do right here, right now, to hang on to our knowledge, to change it into clinical experience that has a positive outcome, so that we have excellence in healthcare, so that in 50 years' time, the people look back and go, we stand on the shoulders of those who've gone before us in a realistic way. And so for me, as I look at my 30-odd years in health, and hopefully a good few more yet, I think, right, what is it that you expect when you go into any kind of healthcare facility? Whether you're going to a rural nursing station, Fiona Stanley, which is the Taj Mahal. Actually, I think Fiona PCH is actually probably a bit slicker, actually. Yes, some of the decor in PCH is actually got the edge on Fiona Stanley. But these are hospitals the like of which I've only seen hospitals speaker in a Middle Eastern country where they had all kind of marble and stars on the ceiling, which is kind of weird, but anyway, more like a very strange hotel than a hospital. But from an equipment and environment and capacity to do work, we have these facilities. But what does it matter? What matters is that when the person turning up to knocking on the door of the nurse's station, or knocking on the door of coming to ED, that they are treated special. That they go away believing they are being treated in a way that makes them feel special, that makes us feel proud that we have delivered that care. Because we would have delivered care like that if it had been our mum, our dad, our brother, our sister, our daughter, our son. And so when you start to pull all that back and you get up and you've got, these people to see, so much of it's overwhelming. We need to learn to step back and to connect with each other and to communicate. Because it's the connection and the communication on the human level that makes what we do excellent. We have an excellence in the environment, but that is no substitute for excellence in person, in that person delivering care, that person's integrity. So when I'm asked what is the most important thing about a junior doctor that we're going to employ is integrity. And I can follow that up with honesty, transparency, compassion, the ability to communicate, a willingness, I should say, rather than ability. There's many things on that list, but underpinning it, in my book, is integrity. So I believe very strongly that we need to move towards a society dependent upon the integrity of each and every one of us, not the intellect of a few. And that brings me to another kind of little rabbit hole I wanted to share with you, because I think there are many opportunities to strive for excellence. And it was brought home to me in no uncertain manner in 2005. As you heard from a very kind introduction, 2005, my world changed in a way I could never have anticipated. There I was, bowling along. You know, you go to school, go to university, go to surgical training. Someone asked me what's easier, being a mum or a surgeon. I thought, hey, I've got surgical training. And then you carry on and you bubble along and we're working on how to do this better, learning something every day to make tomorrow better is the mantra. Understanding something, some snippet every day to make tomorrow better. And all of a sudden something hits you from left field, something completely unexpected, and that for me was the Australian of the Year. So many times I was asked the three questions. One, would you be Australian of the Year? God, there's a lot of people that would do that better than me. Yeah, and I think it was an extraordinary privilege, and it reminded me, this may sound unusual, it reminded me of consent, and when patients consent for an operation. Because when someone consents for an operation to the surgeon, they are at their most ultimate, most vulnerable. I still find it amazing. When I've consented for surgery, it's made me incredibly nervous. I know the person. I know his skill set. I know the infection control history of the operating room I'm going into. Trust me. I was having knee replacements. I knew everything was open and shut there. I've done my inspection. So that's a privilege. It's a privilege that's unique to that space. When we go and see a patient, we offer an intervention, offer care, and they accept that care. That's a privilege. And it felt like that in that space to me. I was also asked if I was Australian. The trivia question is, at the time I was actually just walking up the steps to get the trophy on the lawn outside Parliament House. And he goes, you are Australian, aren't you? And I looked at him, no, does it matter? And he looked like I was going to have to resuscitate somebody in front of me. Just kidding. And it was a little bit of a flurry then, because I thought, oh God. But Johnny Blythe got on the boat with his mum and dad when he was 11, right? And they got to that port. So when he was Australian here, there was a bit of snifty footwork in the back. Actually, he was signed up. It's a very trivia question. But the thing that, I guess, the serious thing that I guess comes really into this whole excellent space is what was the message I wanted to share with Australia. And it's the message I want to share with you today. It's the message I'm trying to really make you feel. By trying to explain how I feel about this whole business. And I've seen basic science impact at the bedside. I have worked, when I say I, it should be we, it's the world, it's big teams, I've done nothing in isolation. I am an absolute believer in teamwork and acknowledging that and collaborating. And there is no point having everybody around the table in a multidisciplinary team and not listening. Because that's not respecting people, what they bring to the table is insanity, in my view. We're there as a team because we've all got skill sets that all can enhance the outcome. Yeah? And so when I say we investigated very aggressively how skin could grow, how we could take a piece of skin and take it into the laboratory and grow enough skin to cover a whole adult male. And we understood and we worked out how to do this in a time frame that I really wanted to be faster. Because the time to healing has a massive impact on scarring. If we want to reduce scarring, we have to think about rapid healing. And I think actually, as a side, that goes for any organ in the body, the brain as much as anything else. And then there's a lot of work around, rapid recovery after stroke, rapid recovery, whether it's cooling or whatever. Closing that inflammation, rapid recovery, it means less scarring, less secondary sequelae. So in driving this forward as a team, we were able to understand and generate new information and put it together into a framework of knowledge such that we went from taking 3 weeks to grow a sheet of skin cells to 10 days. And then we reached down to the scientists we were working with, and I at the time said, well, what about if we put this stuff on as a suspension, as a fluid? Can we just spray this on? Now, at that point, the room was empty because we just both bolted. It was at PMH, I ran down to Rockery Road, the Jackson's art shop, I got airbrushes, everything that I got into the pharmacy, air spray, nose spray, throat spray, and we went up to the stairs to the anaesthetic trolley, we raided that, we raided anything that would spray, and we found a nozzle from an Italian mouth freshener in that 7-Eleven pharmacy on Rockery Road, that when you put on a 5 ml syringe, all the cells, 90% of the cells coming through, went onto the pseudo skin experiment surface. Can't remember what I'm trying to say. Anyway, we sprayed it to see all the skin cells were alive, 90% fat, and they were functional. They all grew. And for years, we had bottles of mouth freshener in the van behind the door because we just pulled off all the spray lids. And until 1996, I'm sorry, we had Remopenia came, and I got, with a name, he came from Birmingham as a plastics fellow. I go, with a name like that, you've got to be able to speak Italian. Can you get the phone and tell them we don't actually need the bottles of mouth freshener, we just need the nozzle. That's the nozzle that's still in the kit that got FDA approval last year. And so that's the spray that we use, and we still use it. We used it this morning. And so from there, we thought, well, how can we do this quicker? So we ended up putting the first steps of the tissue engineering process in a box. And so we had to put it in a box, and so we had to make a box. So we went to Welshpool, and these people with plastic mold helped make the box for us. The mold that they made at that time in the late 90s is still in California, which they use to mold the boxes that they use that make the kit that sells the kit around the world. So all these different people in Go Medical helped us with the electronics. All these pieces of jigsaw came together, so we developed a point-of-care device that splits skin and harvests the engine room of skin, allows delivery of cells to a wound within 20 to 30 minutes. So we use it every day. Now that journey taught me that there's no way that anything can be too hard, right? Because you have no idea the number of people who told me no. I can't do that. No point in sticking around, right? They say no, walk on by. Thanks very much, love. Walk on by. So people who say no, but have you thought about? No, but there might be this. No, but another idea. You don't want yes men, but you want no, but another idea. Engagement in problem solving. That's our lifeblood when we're striving for excellence in healthcare. So I'll go fast forward to 2003. One of the most defining patients that I ever saw. An 8-year-old boy, 80% burn. Oh, we did a fantastic job. We thought healing with the state-of-the-art, international state-of-the-art technologies at the time, we've done a good job. He sent cards to the team of him on outdoor ed camp, only some 9 months later. But he died as an 11-year-old with a rare cancer. When you're looking at a problem, and you're looking at a situation, and it is overwhelming, the one way I've coped for over 30 years is however bad I feel, it is but a fraction of what it's going to be. And it's my privilege to investigate that piece of information to see if I can hang the knowledge around it. Again, if I had $1 for everybody who told me it was a coincidence and bad luck, would we be able to fund all Alzheimer's and Burns research combined? Bad luck. Coincidence. That itched my brain. And so I know that in Western Australia, there's one of the best data linkage opportunities in the world. So I said I could nag. It took me to 2009 to nag. But in 2009, we got an NHMRC grant with the data linkage population health teams here in Western Australia. And they linked the Burns database with the cancer database. And there is a difference. Surviving a burn changes your life trajectory. And as a result of this, it appears it's like a bit of a pressure cooker. The inflammation of the burn is a little bit of a pressure cooker and unmasks the diseases of aging, which again is another reason that we're looking at the neurological consequences of burn injury. So it unmasks the diseases of aging and seems to bring them about somewhere between 5 and 15 years sooner. Not in everyone, not consistently, but there is something in this space that's not a coincidence, and it's not bad luck. But it would be not good form in my book to walk away from it. And so we've been able to engage with IBM Watson Drug Discovery, with the Telethon researchers, looking at, and the researchers in Harry Perkins, and connecting people who've got pieces of our jigsaw, to pull them together to see if we can understand how a burn, that acute burn, changes your life, and in what ways. So that when we've just published the mental illness, post-burn injury in adults and children, the neurological diagnosis, post-burn injury, in a cohort of 34,000 patients, compared to 120,000 non-burn, age, sex, geospatial and socioeconomic match. And so we're starting to unravel a ball of wool. And as such, we've changed the way of thinking across the world. We've increased the body of knowledge across the world. We've made people think differently and engage in solving problems. Driving that excellence paradigm, driving tomorrow's solutions. And so, I have a dream that we will regenerate. One day, we will regenerate. You know, when Luke Skywalker has a bit of a barney with Darth Vader, he chops his hand off, and they give him this innovative prosthetic. It's better than the original. No parenting, but anyway, it's better than the original, right? And that technology is starting, it's out there. Osteointegrated prosthetics, innovative prosthetics, is coming. But when the stormtroopers blow him away, they put him in a Bacta tank, and he regenerates. Every single one of us self-organizes to the shape you are today. We get bigger, we get smaller, we get older, but we are recognizable as not the embryo we started out, or maybe the baby. But after we reach puberty, we're recognizable through life. What drives that self-organization? And can we use that knowledge to drive that after injury? And so I would love a back to 10. Meanwhile, we've got technologies out there that are out there whether we're seeking. I've been in environments in London where there is a laser knife that is being trialled where it cuts through a tumour, through a cancer, and it takes the gas from the laser and analyzes it and can tell whether those cells they're being cut through are cancer or not. This is called an eye knife, an intelligent knife. I can buy that. Yeah? I can buy that. I want an eye knife for Christmas. No. I should have been here this morning. But I want to build the library so that when we cut through tissue that is dead or tissue that's contaminated with bacteria, we know. And I want them to scan the surface of that wound and give that three-dimensional spatial information to a printer. And I want that printer to be at the bedside so we can develop a point-of-care three-dimensional tissue printer. We're a year and a half into that aspect of three-dimensional printing. We've started to unpeel the onion. We started to add to the body of knowledge. Maybe our patients in Western Australia may be the first to have the privilege of this kind of technology. But it's all because we ask the question, the blinkers are on, and the belief, the self-belief. I said that at the beginning, my dad brought me out to say, believe you can do anything like that, just work hard enough. And I put it to you, you can do anything you like, just work hard enough. There'll be a lot of people out there that will thank you for it. A lot of people. Because when you take to the table an average game, you get an average result. But when you take to the table your A game, and you do your best, and you learn something that day, you lay down there at night and you're exhausted, it's a good exhaustion. You've achieved. You've changed the life of somebody you may never meet again, somebody you may know, somebody you may not. But by changing that life, you've inched towards excellence. Excellence in healthcare. Inched us towards our space being a special place where people come for care and we care. And as such, people feel they've had special care. And they feel that they are good. And how much do we need that in this day? Each and every one of us to feel that we are well. And whether it's somebody who's made a compromised decision, who's laid there with a burning tree as a result of not being able to stand up because of their drugs or alcohol, or whether it's somebody in a sport accident, living in between is irrelevant. What's relevant is that we care and that we bring our A game to the table, because there's no substitute for doing the best, because that's what we're saying. So I absolutely applaud you for being here today. Applaud you because I think this thing, if I could sing, I would do it for every birthday. Are we the champions? I will save you from that, because my kids have a list of things I can't do and sing it till the top. So I applaud you for putting your hand up, for being out there, for being the best you can be, because I can't tell you how many